This is an in-depth crow pose class where before we cover the standard crow, we're going to cover a more beginner-friendly and lower version, then come back to the standard crow, and if you're advanced, we're also going to cover the single leg crow. Now, the way this class is designed is meant to be more of a follow-along rather than something that you watch on your desk and then go and try the pose. If you're watching this on your desk to try it later, feel free to watch it to get the big picture. But in reality, you should be repeating this class as a follow-along, where I tell you when to pause and try the poses. And every single time you repeat it, you're able to advance a little bit further in the class until you can finally reach your goal. If this is your first time following along, I highly recommend using an old pillow. Using a pillow will allow you to eliminate some of the fears, which will allow you to progress much faster, even if you never end up falling on the pillow. So grab a pillow if you have one and let's follow along. Okay, so I'm going to place the pillow on the floor right here. And the first thing I'm going to do is make sure my wrists are warm. I have a wrist conditioning routine that I'll link below if you need that. But just wiggling them around, putting a little bit of pressure on the floor should be fine for now. Now, the more flexible you are in terms of being able to squat very deeply, the easier this pose is going to get. You don't need the ankle flexibility part. So if you're able to squat deeply while your ankles are lifted, that's still fine. If you're not able to squat deeply while the ankles are lifted, I'll link below a routine to be able to achieve that, but you don't need too much of it, and it's still possible, it's just a little bit harder. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put our elbows on the insides of the thighs, very close to the knee, and we're gonna practice squeezing the knees together and squeezing the elbows out, or pushing the elbows out. This opposite force on each side creates more of a friction, so you can't really slide if you're squeezing together. Okay, so now that we're squeezing, we're gonna put our fingertips just before the pillow. Don't put the hands on the pillow or on a cushion, because you want to be able to create that response against a solid floor. So if you're using a yoga mat, make sure it's a thin mat, because you're going to be balancing with your hands. Now, create that tension we talked about, and without trying to balance, just try to stand up with your hips and feel that seesaw where as the hips elevate, the head goes down. As the hips go down, the head elevates. And just try to touch your forehead to the pillow while keeping the legs on the ground. Awesome. So pause the video and try that. Awesome. Now, if you're able to also film yourself, for example, watching this tutorial on a TV or an iPad or a tablet, and then filming yourself with your phone and comparing, this is going to be a huge hack to improve your progress. So film yourself and make sure you're doing it the right way or good enough. Now, when you place your head the next time, see if you can lift your feet. Again, I'm not dumping a ton of weight on that pillow or on the floor if you don't have a pillow. I'm just putting my head and I'm pushing with my arms enough to be able to lift my feet. There is weight on my forehead, but not a ton. And of course, I'm feeling strong with my neck, so I don't have to, collapse a little bit. Now, if you try that again, squeezing, as you try to put your head, you'll realize you're able to lift your feet before and still come down. And then if you're able to bring yourself back like I just did, then that's awesome as well. So pause the video and try that. Okay, awesome. Now all we're gonna do is do the same thing again, but slow it down. So we'll do it first, then we'll explain what's happening. I'm gonna slow it down. And as I start falling to touch the pillow, I can push a little bit with my fingers to bring myself back. So it might just look like this. So it might just look like this at first. That's totally fine. Pause the video and try this. Okay, now hopefully you've been filming yourself and you're able to assess how you're doing it and compare it to mine. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on, so kind of in the back of the head you know, but you don't really need to. So when I'm here, my weight is more concentrated behind the heel side of my hand. And when I'm here, the weight is more concentrated on the fingertip side of the hands. So all we want to do is be able to shift the weight from here, not all the way here, but keep it somewhere here. And it's not a still thing, it's more like a balance where you're gonna feel like you're doing this the whole time, even if it looks still on camera. It's just the wobbles are a little bit more hidden and subtle and quick, so we don't really see them. So if this is very challenging to balance, continue watching the video just to get insight. But whenever I say pause and do it, don't actually pause and do it. Pause and repeat this exercise with the insight from the future parts of the video. Okay, now if you're able to balance this, we're gonna change the grip. So this thing is very good because it allows us to add friction and also squeeze the knees into the elbows, so the elbows don't actually go out, which is not very good for balance. So now you're gonna not rely on your knees, but you're gonna rely on your arms to keep the elbows in without the help of the knees. Now, I've seen many yoga teachers recommend a strap. So you put a strap, and I've seen people who do that can do crow to handstand easily, but without the strap, they're not even close. So it does work, but I think you can really develop this on your own without the strap for the purposes here. Just imagine you're keeping the elbows a little bit closer together. Now we're gonna put the knee on top of the elbows as if the arm and chin are a straight line. They're not gonna be, but pretend. Now I've seen a lot of people say go closer to the armpits. This is also good and allows you to use your shin bone to have the surface kind of like this. But it's not easy to progress to things like single leg crow and crow to handstand. I highly recommend you try this out. Now the problem with this is it's gonna feel so awkward, so awkward, so awkward, so awkward until you're in position and you're like, oh, it's not actually awkward. So the key here, and this is a big, big thing, is to lift one leg at a time. Like we all do this on social media because we wanna impress you and show you some cool things, but if you keep one toe on the ground, you can enter the full position while having a toe and then go very light on that toe, very light on that toe, very light on that toe. Even if you stay here for weeks, eventually it'll be easy to lift. So I want you to not try to do the full thing. When I say pause the video, try to keep a toe on the ground, get into the position, film it, and see if you're close to that position. And keeping a toe very light on the ground. So pause the video and try that now. Okay, if this was challenging, same thing as before. Continue watching the video to get the insight, maybe the first time. Next few times you can just stop the video here and continue practicing on your own. So there's no shame if this step takes weeks. Honestly, it's much better to spend weeks here and then set a good foundation to try to rush it and then plateau and not like your practice and lose motivation. So what I really love about the crow pose is it teaches you to be in the moment and balance with your arms and be very present. And you can achieve those benefits minus maybe looking cool on social media if you just be happy with this for a few weeks. No need to lift the foot yet. Now, if this is too easy, and by too easy, I genuinely mean too easy, then you can lift the foot. So you're gonna be in your practice in this point in time where you can do maybe 2 sets like this for 5 seconds, and then 2 sets like this for 20 seconds. If you can't do this for 20 seconds, then you're not too good to do this. So a lot of people think that as soon as they can balance 2 seconds, they don't need the toe on the ground anymore. That's false. Okay, so let's try to lift the toe, but with that mindset in the back of our head. So we're going to do the same. When the toe is ridiculously easy to keep on the ground, just bring the heel to the butt. Awesome. And now you have your crow. If this is challenging, watch the rest of the video for insight. There's still some insight you can apply, but stay here in terms of what you actually do when I say pause the video and practice. Okay, so when I said you can still watch the rest of the video for insight, this is one of the examples. This insight can help even if you're still stuck on step 1. The insight is don't look at your hands. Feel your hands. Be mindful of your hands. but don't go here and be like looking at your hands. Instead, look straight down and feel your hands. In general, we tend to go where we want to look, but if we look straight down, we can feel like we're reaching with the top of your head. It just looks better and feels better. And a lot of times in my clients, I see their videos looking at their hands. It's not working. I say look straight down. Automatically, it works the next session. So it's a good tip. Look straight down whenever you catch yourself looking at your hands. Awesome. So for single leg crow, we're going to attack it from 2 directions. The first direction is you're going to do a crow, and you're going to try to maybe lift a knee, bring it back. Lift a knee, bring it back. This is much harder than it looks. You got to be engaged from wrist, elbow, shoulder, chest, shoulder, elbow, wrist, like an inverted metal bar that has the shape of a U, like a dip bar. So you have to be really engaged and try this. And you don't need to be able to do this to do a single leg crow. So the second approach that's more likely to lead you to the single leg crow is this approach. So you take a running person position, you put your hands down, you bend the elbows, you put your knee, and you start using the toe like we mentioned before. If your toe is so far away, it's not going to work. You got to bring it, and then when it's here, just lift a bit and come back down. So pause the video and try these 2 exercises. Okay, another piece of insight that can work for people stuck on step 2 in the normal crow, or here, is if you want to find the best knee position, you can practice just putting your head down, pressing hard, and climbing, and find that knee position that looks good, and then start trying to alternate the legs like this, and this can kind of teach you the knee position so that every time you're doing an attempt, you're doing it exactly the same place rather than having variability and introducing a little bit of chaos. Okay, so now is the final step. We're going to take the running person position. We're going to climb the knee on the elbow. We're going to start walking the foot. Remember, it's like an isosceles triangle. The closer you walk, the higher the hips will go, right? So if I'm here, I can try to lean all day and I won't get there. But if I walk it close, the hips will be high, and then I can swing right up. Now, the swing right up is easier if it's a bit faster, not like whoop, but more like not pausing here. Because if you pause here, there's just too much weight, it's going to push you back. So you keep the knee locked and you do this. I know a lot of people think like, oh, if pausing here is hard, why don't I avoid it by bending and straightening? That works, but it confuses the body so much. I'd rather you keep that knee locked and you swing slow, but only after, and be honest with yourself, only after you can hold this for about 10 to 15 seconds. Then you can swing up and be in a single leg row. Awesome, that's it for this class. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you come back and try it again. The more times you do this, the more you start picking up on things like, oh, that's what he's doing. That's what I need to do. Because the first time you watch it, you can't pick up everything. So I've done this in my own practice. I would watch the same classes over and over and over, record myself, look at my own videos. So I encourage you to do the same. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.